So this proposal is something that I have been thinking around for some time ago. Actually, I had a similar proposal in LACNIC, and especially when we were in the election process in the previous meeting, some people get together, including what at that time Caleb also said we should do something, and we started working on that. Unfortunately, at that time, I didn't got responses from Caleb, so I went with, to write this with SOAT, and if we need to do an inversion, Caleb will join. He already agreed to join the proposal. So what we have today is that the PDP working group discusses very briefly how the chairs are chosen. But this doesn't provide sufficient detail about how to actually run the election process, right? So this is right now done by an internal procedure, but not really decided by the community. So what we are suggesting is changing the actual text, because the text is very long. I don't think I should read everything. I will try to again remark the main points, and then I have a graphic that shows the flow that we are trying to accommodate. So the idea is to have some basic rules, like, for example, make sure that we have a solution in case, for whatever reason, visas or traveling or illness, there is always a chair present, and otherwise that will be selected by the board on the spot. So we need always this kind of backup solution, so we make clear about that. And then we describe what are the duties of the chairs and how we select them. So, of course, we clearly say that the staff cannot serve as chair or co-chair. We also said that this position is incompatible with other positions related to this. For example, a board member cannot be a chair. I think that's obvious, because the board will notify the policies that are decided if they reach consensus or not by the chairs. We also believe that in terms of diversity, we should try as much as possible that the chairs are not from the same country. Okay, so the idea is that except in exceptional situations, we need the community diversity on who they are electing, so not, again, except in exceptional situations, if there are no other candidates, then we need to accept that, but in other situations, we need to have different co-chairs from different countries. The idea is always that it's true that this is community, not membership, but we believe that we need some support from the membership to nominate someone. So the idea is that is either a member contact or supported by member contacts. Okay, so it's not just someone random from the community that nobody knows and come here just to say I want to chair. We keep the terms staggered in 2 years, so that's not changing. But we also want to make sure that if somebody is selected for a 2-year term, he can come back again for another 2 years, but not forever. Okay, so we think that it's good to change from time to time, and because the terms are staggered, it's not a problem of continuity. Okay. We also believe that somebody that is going to help the community to take decisions, they need to have certain experience, a minimum of experience. And how we can define that? Well, the first point is they should have been participating in the mailing list for at least 6 months. When we say participating, we don't want to mean they have been responding to every email or anything like that, but at least they have joined the mailing list for at least 6 months, so they see how the process works. At least they have some idea. They don't start from zero, right? In the nomination process, we are asking them to provide not just the biographical information, but also information sufficient for the community to be able to understand what is their knowledge, what is their expertise, what they can provide to this community, how they can help the community to build up, and so on. So it's not just I send my video and that's it. No, it's please explain the community how you are going to support your position. So about the election process, the idea is to start with a call for nominations. The second change, and this is a big change, is we believe we should rely on electronic voting, okay? I know some people will say, well, this can be fake, somebody can vote several times. There are ways to avoid that. In fact, I can tell you that, for example, in LACNIC, we are doing electronic voting for many, many years ago, and never we got a single problem, never. And I am sure LACNIC will be happy to share their system with AFRINIC if necessary. So even if it don't need to be developed, it's there already done. Also, we believe that in order to avoid people supporting on the spot without knowing absolutely the candidate or to fake elections, it's good that anyone to vote must have been part of the mailing list for 6 months in advance as well. Okay? So that means if we start the elections, let's say next year in January, people that joined the mailing list before end of June of this year will be able to vote. I think it's a minimum thing. Otherwise, you are opening the door to somebody saying, hey, friends, and I have 300 friends, I am going to nominate myself as candidate. Join the mailing list and you vote for me, and we get 300 votes in the spot, even if they don't have anything related to the PDP. What else is important here? Okay. To summarize the process, I have made a picture that explains it very well, and I don't think we need to read all the details. The idea is that the process starts 3 months in advance to the ratification. The ratification is almost formal, let's say, in the meeting. So that means that day 1 or 3 months in advance of the meeting day, we start the elections with the call for nominations. This lasts for a complete month. Then the accepted, because there is already an elections committee, I don't remember the name right now, but I think there is an elections committee that will take care of reviewing that all the details are complied, so we are not changing that. So the elections committee will say, these candidates are accepted, they fulfill the rules, and then the community has 10 days to provide any inputs about the candidates. The inputs will be reviewed by the nomination committee, and if something is relevant, they can publish it. If it's not relevant or if it's not confirmed, they cannot publish it. For example, I don't like this guy because he has divorced 3 times. This is not relevant to the PDP, right? But look, this guy was elected chairman of the IXP of country X, and he never went to the meetings. He never responded emails. Do we want that guy to chair our sessions? It's up to the community to decide, but I think the information should be published so everybody knows that that guy is not serious. Okay? I think there are a lot of discretion here for the nomination committee. The nomination committee will decide what is able to publish and what not, and if they cannot confirm, they should not publish. Never mind it's negative or positive. After these 10 days, they publish the information of all the candidates, all in once, so not one by one, but at the end of the 10 days, they will publish all together. And then on the next Monday, we start the election. During 7 days, we will have the electronic voting. And in case of a tie, we have a second round for additional 7 days with those that were tying. And that's it. That's basically the process. We believe it's not very complex. It looks like complex when you read on the text, but looking at the picture, I think it's very easy to accommodate. And well, we believe it can improve the participation. And I am not saying not at all that the channels are not good or anything like that. I will tell you tomorrow if you do this or not. No, I am joking. But I really think it's good to have a good and defined process, which is defined by the community and not just a procedure that is made by the staff or the board or whatever. This is the PDP, this is the community, and the community should have its own process. I have a lot of questions about how it's done in every region and so on. There are different, etc., but I am not going to that. And I already mentioned our idea is, in case it don't reach consensus, we have already a new volunteer to co-author this document as well. That he told me that he will be online. If somebody has any questions, he can try to respond as well, etc. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jordi. We'll first of all take staff analysis, impact analysis on this proposal, and we'll now take it from Jordi. Thinks I'm not a good chair, so he wants to get rid of me.
Good afternoon. I'm Advi Gokur from AFRINIC for the impact analysis of the chair elections process policy proposal. So the understanding is PDP, this is a clarification, sorry. PDWG chairs may only be re-elected for one consecutive term, but are eligible to run again after a minimum 1 year pause. It's a bit ambiguous. That's one. Let me finish and then you can. So that's one clarification for you, Jordi. Okay. And in regard to voting, will be conducted electronically, using mechanisms to ensure as much as possible that each voter can cast only one vote. Okay, so the impact here is on the e-voting platform that we have. Elections will have to be configured for the co-chairs elections. But does this mean that manual voting is eliminated? Completely eliminated. Okay. Yeah. The other one section says that anyone who has been part of the RPD list for at least 6 months prior to the start of election process may participate. One thing that we'd like to inform authors and community is that the RPD is an open list and subscribers are not vetted against any identification document. We've seen some use personal emails, some avoid using their real name as well. So we're not sure how that part can be verified if it's in the policy proposal. And if at any time during the process there are sufficient indications of fraud, how would you define, or how would the co-authors define fraud in this case? Yep, so where will it impact is, perhaps the nomination NOMCOM, the AFRINIC NOMCOM, the AFRINIC election process, and the online voting procedures forms as well. And in regard to implementation, if the policy goes through, AFRINIC Secretariat will inform the PDP on the implementation timelines. Okay, thank you very much. Yes, so this is the first slide.
Okay, so the first one was the clarification about the re-election. I think I explained it before. You are elected by 2 years. You can be re-elected. So in total, you can be a maximum of 4 years. But if you want to go for a third term, you need to at least rest for 1 year. So this is to give opportunity to others instead of having the same co-chair forever, okay? Yeah. Sorry, the region?
Any other area that does that?
Yeah, several.
Okay.
The electronic voting, yes, it's done eliminating totally the manual voting. So the idea is that because I don't remember how to say in English, the group of people that is able to vote, it's closed 6 months before, because you look at the mailing list at that time. So obviously, if somebody come to the meeting and was not registered 6 months in advance, will not be able to vote, because the voting is not anymore done in the meeting. It's done electronically in advance. So in the meeting, we all only do okay, guys, these 2 co-chairs are the selected one in our voting. It was announced already in the list before the meeting. Okay, so the meeting is just a formal thing, like when we finish the meeting, one of them step down and the next one goes up for the next meeting. Okay, and then the other one was, yeah, I think I responded to the mailing list as well. It's open. The mailing list is open. We don't ask for verification or ID, neither we ask here. We don't ask your ID to give you your badge, right? So if somebody's lying, it's the same. The difference may be that somebody can register with several emails. But because we are asking that 6 months in advance, it's difficult to believe that something will plan ahead 6 months that they need to register several emails to vote his friend, right? So that's part of the, let's say, trick to avoid that kind of thing. In any case, if we discover that this is happening, and this is very easy to discover most of the time, then you discover that there is a fraud. Why is it easy to discover? Because if you have an electronic voting, it can check if it is done from the same computer. Not just because the IP address, because that may mean that several people from the same company are behind a NAT, but you can see some other fingerprints in the communication that show you that at least it's the same computer. I doubt that somebody has 300 computers or creates 300 virtual machines to vote his friend. I think that extreme case. I am not saying it can happen and we will never discover that, but if normally we get 300 votes and suddenly in one vote we get 600 emails, something is strange, right? So I think there are many ways to at least have a suspicion that something is not clear. And in that case, it can be canceled and restarted. And even if we need to look for a manual voting, in that case, it's a perfectly situation. But I think that's extreme case. I really think it's difficult that somebody can plan ahead 6 months to lie in the voting, because he don't know even if his friend is going to be accepted as a candidate, for example, okay? Or he don't know that his friend is going to be present in the voting. I think it requires a lot of planning to do it against the rules. It can be done, yes. That's why we have this. In case of suspicion of fraud and evidence, we can cancel it. And I think that's it. Questions?
Thank you very much, Jody. We're going to take comments now. And I will be the one. Okay, the queues are now closed. I think we've now closed the queues now. So anybody that is not in the queue now can no longer join the queue. But Jody, I want to ask you the first to clarify something from you, Jody. The fraud situation, if it happens, what happens? Are we not going to have a co-chair for that year? If you have a situation whereby you have a fraud, that was what's going to happen.
Repeat the process.
And you have a fraud again, and there's a fraud.
If you have a fraud and you don't put the means, sorry. If you have a fraud case and you as a staff don't put the means to avoid that repeating, you are doing something wrong. You should repeat the election considering what happened to avoid it, right?
I just wanted to clarify that. So we'll go for the mic in front.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel from Nigeria. Jody, these postulations you are making, the possibilities are very high. They are beyond unlikelihood. Let me tell you that. In Nigeria, we have started campaigning for the next president already, and we just inaugurated the president in May. So you can see how long it takes us to prepare for an election. So I can assure you that if I'm interested in being a candidate, as I live here, I will start recruiting my voters. So it is very possible. And when you say electronic voting, at these very early stages, I don't think, we don't have any, just as the staff assessment has said, we don't have any verification. And if we want to subject ourselves to verification in terms of whether the votes are coming from the right people who they are supposed to be, I think it's another burden that I don't know who will want to bear. Yes, I agree totally that in an environment where there is supposed to be some level of coordination and control, some level of elections are needed. I agree on that totally. But these processes you have outlined are not very feasible. And because I see the difficulties in the feasibility of this process, and when you say 6 months, as I said rightly, if I'm interested, the candidate now, not forget about who will vote, but somebody who wants to be voted, I will go and start getting people to register on the RPD. And that is all. And then when it is time to vote, they will vote. They have fulfilled the 6 months. They don't have to say anything. They don't have to make any comment. They are eligible. That's what you are saying. But then, lack of also that face-to-face and removing that manual process of voting makes this significantly different. So for these other steps, except if we have to review these steps, I think I will not support this process for now, except we change the process. Thank you.
Jody, please, can you comment after? Can we just take?
Yes, if we remove the electronic voting, but we keep more or less the rest of the things, will you agree? It's just one possibility. I am just trying to think how to improve. Okay.
Well, that's a step. That's a step forward. Just as the Chinese say, you can match a paper and you are likely to go up.
Can we take the mic at the back, please?
Sharon from Uganda. I'm not in support of this policy because I don't know what kind of experience you would measure from a candidate based on him or her being in the RPD list. I may be there but doing nothing for 6 months. So why would I come and stand and get voted? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We take the comment from the front mic.
Hello. Okay. Pascal Federal University. Jody. Okay. The first thing is with these policies, I would like to start from the point of view where your policy states that somebody can win the elections before the meeting. Is that correct? Yes. Is that correct? Okay. And we all know that some of us have been to some elections before, and we see the impact the presentations carried out by candidates. I mean, you cannot eradicate the impact of those presentations carried out by candidates. From what you are saying is that there will be no presentations by candidates. I just have to read blah, blah, blah about the candidate online and I feel he's good. There is no physical presentation or probably remote. That means in the case of somebody like, I think in the last meeting, Mark Elkins, I think so, he wouldn't have been disqualified for not honoring a presentation. For me, I don't go with that. And one more thing, I don't think it will be right for a longer serving co-chair to step down to recontest his position. I believe in experience. For example, these two co-chairs here, let's say I'm in the same country with Abdul Karim here, and he has to step down and I have to go in. I mean, I think we are breaking the wheel of experience. I don't go with that as well. And the next thing you said is fingerprints. Fingerprints can be verbal. This is Africa. We can use, when it comes to election, we are very skillful. It's sensitive. Fingerprints can be verbal. Okay? I can start getting phones or mobile devices separately on different networks and campaign to actually rig this election. I'm telling you out of experience. Okay? So I think it's too complex for now. Thank you.
Can we take the comment from the back?
This is Ezebo Goldspine. Jody, I think what you are coming up with, you have good thoughts. But my problem is you underestimate a lot of things in Africa. You also underestimate the possibility that programs can also be hacked and programs can be manipulated. Now, in a situation where you said if there's a fraud, if we find out a fraud along that 6 months, what are we going to do? I think that place is not so clear yet. You haven't cleared out that issue yet because we can't come back to do an election and then we find out that's a fraud and then we have to go back again and start doing an election, or do we go back manually? Secondly, I think this is going to encourage crowd renting because people can always just call their friends and register them in the RPD. And then they'll come and then do the election. It's still the same thing. It doesn't really solve much problem.
Thank you very much. We take the comment in the front mic. And is there anybody that wants to support this policy that is on the queue? Is there anybody for the support of the policy? On the queue, seated anywhere? Okay, we'll take the comment from the front mic.
Je suis Trésor Chilumba, je viens de la RDC.
It is there somehow abuse of power. When I see this policy, it will only be served for reinforce this evil, just to reinforce the power. In terms of responsibility, will be weak. So we only have one fantasy because we do not have applicability. When we talk about the new policy of electing new chairs, I think that it should be innovative. We are talking about innovation, but what I see today is the promotion of gender equity. We are now in a panel comprised only for men. It was not discussed. The issue about gender balance, it was not discussed. So this proposal as such, I do not support. I do not support at all. I prefer the principle of votes of responsible as it is currently.
What's next comment from the back, Mike?
Thank you. I'd like to find out from the author whether he has
taking a look at the PDP-BIS guidelines, because it has a whole body of material around election of co-chairs. Because I think that's an important thing to reference. Secondly, remember that Africa will want to be leveraging on itself, and we are less interested in importing things these days. So if there's something good done here, we would like to advance that. So I want you to take a look at that document and see how best it can be added here. My second issue is that we are still patching. This thing should be discussed in the holistic manner regarding, improvement on the PDP process. But this will just patch one small bit, whereas it's other conditions in the PDP process that creates, problems of election of chairs. So we need to be careful with that. Perhaps the last big point for me is, if I have good people and they are from the same country, I want them to stay there. Okay? I don't like this business of division. We are bringing politics into our thing and it's coming from outside. We want to work by merit. If the people are good, I honestly don't care which country they are from. Okay? On the other hand, yes. On the other hand, we leave some things unwritten because we want to encourage diversity, discussion, and coming up with what balances. Much of the challenge in Africa is not by country, it's more by language. Okay, so we will try to work out our diversity so that we have people who can help with different languages instead of different countries. But honestly, if there are good people from the same country, great for Africa. We'll use them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Neil. Is there anybody that has something different that has not been said? Because hi, Tim.
Yes.
Please, I want to help us so that we'll go for the gala. Is there anybody, what you want to say must be totally different?
Okay, so this is
totally different. Okay.
So as a first for the voting process, to open online vote for members and paper or ballot votes for attendees in the event. Okay, that's may solve that issue. Thank you.
Do you want to say something totally different? Okay, go on.
I am from DRC. I don't want to repeat what was already mentioned, but I'd like to go back to the roots. According to what I read, I do not see any paragraph which states or says, sum it up, the two co-chair being from the same origins. I don't know if I understood. What concerned me, if we limit talking about origins, we are limiting one item. It has nothing to do with democracy. We need to have the same competencies, yes, but it has nothing to do with the origin. This is the item that concerned me. Of electronic voting, I believe that it really favors the fraud, and it is an experience that we Africa knows well, and it causes problems. This is what I'd like to add.
I think, is there anybody that is still on queue that feels strongly that they want to say what they want to say? Remote. Can we have the remote, please? The remote, so that we... Do you feel strongly that you want to say what you want to say? Go on, go on, go on.
One of the things I noticed is 7 days objection of result, the period 7 days for objection of result. What if a very strong and cogent reason for objection arises after 7 days? What happened? That's one. Secondly, is there a limit to number of people that can be nominated? If there is none, then assuming only 2 people are nominated from the same country, what happens? You understand? So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we have the back mic, please?
Hi everyone, my name is Mariam Sulaiman from University of Ilorin, Nigeria. So my question is that on the policy it says one has to be on the RPD for 6 months before you are eligible to vote. But now in a situation whereby the fellows that AFRINIC are recruiting to come for meetings have not been on the RPD list for 6 months, are you now saying fellows that have been brought in by AFRINIC does not have the right to vote?
Thank you very much. The front mic, please. Front mic. Go on, sir.
Ok. Merci, Monsieur Laurent.
Muito obrigado, Laurent Tumba da RDC. Laurent Tumba from DRC. I have an impression that we are going around. We are going around and starting at the same point. You want to change while we do not have a reason to change. Second, when we want to go to elections, we nominate the best, no matter what is his origin or color. Among the AFRINIC staff, maybe it will be the last discussion of this meeting. May I improvise in the room for the first time with 100 of people and keep an opinion, so this opinion can be kept by the community. There are things that need to be reviewed in this organization, otherwise this organization is going to die. We can be here for the first time with 200 people. They get in the room in the same opinion, led by a group of individuals or one individual. It kills the system. What AFRINIC is doing or trying to do in order to change. So we can really see what doesn't work. Let's not be like people, blind people that pretend that they are not seeing. So we want to have the best among us. So the best among us, yeah, they are everywhere because we know the competences. They did many things in the past. Let's see things forward. Otherwise, it will kill this system. So something is not okay.
Something I will not be happy.
Yeah. I will be very brief. So electronic vote will prevent my grandmother from voting. Yeah. So I'm not with this policy.
Thank you very much.
Donc juste pour...
So just to clarify, I think that before changing the format of electronic voting, there is a need to see if this system is representative. For example, I'm from Morocco, and it is shame to see that only Moroccans participate and alive with the participation, an issue that has to do, we have 55 countries, but they have to decide together at AFRINIC level. First, we need to have a representative of the countries. It's not one sort of the top to see the best, but we should have inclusion, people that understand the subject in order to improve, and Africa together can move. So we need to have inclusion, collaboration among us, and not say that I have 10 years of experience, I'm more competent than the others, while the other is building in few time. Participant.
Comment from remote participation. Okay, the first one, Arnaud Amelina Togourère. Pourquoi aujourd'hui is
Why Jordi is not sharing his model with PDP, which is plagiarize. I do not support this policy to encourage people that want a controversy policies or can create controversy among the communities, and it is putting away from the objective, creating Jordi. I have different viewpoint. You can't impose your viewpoint, Jordi. Number two. So the proposal of the chair election process, it doesn't go in line with the real challenges. I believe Jordi is looking for a personal way. His issue of the statutes, it has nothing to do with the problem. So this PDP is a long time issue.
Okay, if you were in the chat room, you can see clearly that I asked the author, are you sure you want me to read this?
Yeah.
And the author said,
I think let's move forward. Let's move,
yeah.
Because I think those are personal attacks on Jordi.
There is also one from the remote participation.
Yeah.
It says to Mariam as co-author, this is coming from Caleb Ogundele. As co-author, I will answer your question by saying that AFRINIC fellows are selected by merit, and I was once a fellow. The idea is have fellows who can engage before the meeting. I think it's one of the criteria AFRINIC uses to select fellows.
Thank you very much. I think we will now give Jordi the opportunity to respond to those comments. Jordi, you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes for 20 questions? No. I don't complain if I speak too fast then. No, I am trying to be very brief. The first one, the expertise is not just by participating in the mailing list or by subscribing in the mailing list. The NOMCOM is also going to look into that. On-site candidates, the on-site presentation by candidates can be replaced perfectly. When the NOMCOM announce the names, they should also be able to submit some videos. So that's not a problem. Regarding the terms of the actual co-chairs, the idea is that they can keep going for 2 terms. So it's a maximum of 4 years. So the idea is, if we want the co-chairs to stay there for 12 years, even if they are doing good, it's not good to give opportunity to other people at least for 1 year. Then if they are not doing well, you can again select the previous co-chair. So that's not a problem. Regarding the fraud, in this community, electronic voting, as I understood previously, is used already for other things in the membership. So that means that we don't trust in that voting and here yes, or in the other way around. It don't make sense to me. So okay, so it's based in identification. I am not defining how this electronic voting will go. So we may want an identification as well. There is not a problem on that. That's easy to solve, right? What I am saying is that electronic voting works. It's a matter of how you provide it. And of course, fraud can happen, but it can happen also here. I remember the fraud of, it was Benjamin, or what was that? And it goes on site with another name. Well, it can happen on site as well. There is no difference. Regarding the changing the PDP, look, we have been discussing the PDPB's proposal for I don't know how many years, 2 years at least. Sometimes when the community cannot agree in a big change, you need to break down a proposal in small pieces. I remember when I was submitting my first proposal into AFRINIC, and the staff suggested me to break it down in 5 different proposals, and I did that. This is a possible way. We did not because that, but this is not, there is something against If we cannot reach consensus in a big change, going for smaller changes, step by step, it's a perfect valid possibility. People from different countries, you have the same from different regions in terms of the board, right? So if you don't accept that for the board, if you don't accept that for the co-chairs, why is accepted for the board? We think we need to think on that. Objection for 7 days. I didn't get very well the question, but it's not objection for 7 days. It's basically that you have 7 days for the voting, and then if a second round is needed, another 7 days. Maximum number of people to be nominated, there is not a limit. If there are 20 candidates, we can vote for 20 candidates. I don't think we need to have a limit on that, and maybe that number of candidates will be limited depending on experience by the NOMCOM. Fellows, well, it has been said by Caleb already, but I think if fellows want to really be useful to the community and to themselves, they need to join to the mailing list way ahead before coming here. Otherwise, it don't make sense. I am here giving my opinion on policy proposals that maybe I have not read, or I have not commented in the mailing list, or I have not requested for authors to clarify it. It's my opinion. I may be wrong, but I think it's more useful. When I write a policy proposal, I try to investigate all the pros and cons. When I read policy proposals from other authors, I check if I can agree or not, depending on information, not just in opinion. That's why I have the information if it's compatible or not with other regions. Not because I am trying to act as the staff or something, but it's my obligation if I want to contribute. It's my way to see the life, the things. If you want to contribute, you need to be proactive by yourself, not just rely on others. And finally, I think electronic voting is much more inclusive because it allows people that is not able to travel, they don't get the funding, they don't get the fellowship to be able to participate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jody. We have come to
say something else.
Something else. Yeah. Open mic. Open mic. Jody, open mic. If it is something else.
Related to this proposal, to close it. You say time yourself. I already discussed it with my co-authors before coming here, because we got already some comments in the mailing list, and independent of the decision that the co-chairs can take, we believe that it will be better to make a new version and not have the need to declare or not consensus, because we believe that we can improve it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, what happened was when Jody came up here, he saw the oracle. So he's now trying to go with the oracle. That's why. So Jody clearly saw the oracle and he had declared what he saw on the oracle on this stage. So we're going to move to the next item on the agenda.